Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Let's Talk. We are here talking real mom, real life with Tonya Hamilton and Kyley Paul. Tonya Hamilton, hello to you today.
Hi, how are you ladies doing?
We are doing great. It's lovely to have you. Friends, let me tell you a little bit about Tonya Hamilton here. Tonya Hamilton and her husband Brian live in Brantford, Ontario, with their 4 children, ages 5 to 13, and their mini golden doodle. Tonya is an extrovert to the core. She went to college for social work at York University and went on to complete her sociology degree. For 15 years, she has worked in the social field, with her first opportunity working in a shelter supporting women and children who were victims of domestic violence. Tonya worked at group homes and went on to work at the Children's Aid Society York region, Family and Children's Services Waterloo region, and facilitated sessions for the John Howard Society of Waterloo. Tonya left her career as it was no longer fitting into her family life. She believes in living to work and not working to live. I love that. 5 years ago, she entered the entrepreneurial world. Tonya and Brian started a podcast called Disrupt the Everyday, have become property investors, and recently took ownership of MMC. Even with a hectic work schedule, she is able to ensure her family comes first. Wonderful. That's exactly what we're talking about today, honey. I love it. Welcome to the show. And here we have Kyley Paul. Kyley Paul is a vision planner. Her mission is to empower everyone around her by activating their awareness and giving effective tools to create and enjoy their ideal lives. Kyley is a single mother of 2 boys and acting CEO of 3 companies. As her schedule became more demanding, in response, she developed efficient strategies to maximize her time, organization, and execution in life and business, which she now shares with you. Welcome, Kyley Paul.
Thank you. Thank you, Tonya, for being here.
Yes,
Thank you.
definitely. We are going to get right into this, ladies. Real mom, real life. Here we go. I'm going to put this to you. What is the biggest challenge, Tonya, you're facing balancing work and home life right now? Let's talk, we all had pre-pandemic, we had pandemic. How about post-pandemic? How are you doing it?
Okay, so a couple things here. Post-pandemic, I guess, I have said a couple times to people in the last few weeks, I'm having a hard time catching up because our pre-pandemic, our schedules are really hectic, but not with a lot of things people would think. Like it was work, like you did your job, but it was, I gave up my career in social work so I could be home, still bring in income and do what I enjoy doing, but also to benefit the kids. So like that hustle and bustle of like running them to different programs and activities, which I love, and not doing that for 2 years. And now getting back into it and actually having to put things on the calendar is like, oh my goodness. Okay. Almost every night during the week, there's something now, which, after 2 years of nothing, extremely thankful for. And it's not a complaint. It's just like my brain has to catch up to what's going on. And again, going back, if you would have asked me this 6 years ago when I was still working at Children's Aid, I was like an absolute mess, as Brian would say. Like you work all day, such an extreme, stressful job, but you still have your kids. So you get home and it's like everything still has to be done. Right. And then there would be some nights where you're having to still work from home in the evening and get court documents ready. And he would come upstairs and I'd be like falling asleep at the table, right? Like trying to get court documents done. Now, like that stress is gone. So I don't really have stress with my work anymore, which is something that I did have to give up a couple things. I remember our financial advisor sitting here saying to us, like, I get why you're doing it, but like pretty much in a professional way, he's like, it's such a dumb move, giving up your pension and all that in a very nice professional way. He said it. But he said, I understand why you're doing it too. And that was the thing, right? It's like, yeah, what do I want more? Because at the end of the day, yeah, you get a paycheck and you get maybe status, you have an office, that kind of thing. But yeah, I couldn't see myself still doing this today. So.
Good for you. Good for you, Tonya. We only get one life to live, right?
That's it.
Let's do it. Kyley, what are your thoughts on that? How are you balancing work and home post-pandemic?
I have drastically changed my schedule actually from pre, during, and now post, and I'm actually doing a whole new readjustment right now. So my main company, my regulatory consulting firm, I brought on a partner who's going to be taking over the majority of the day-to-day managerial operations and duties and everything. So now I get to focus more on like kind of what your shift that you did 6 years ago, Tonya. I get to kind of do that shift a little bit more now and work more on coaching with Kyley and my programs and more speaking engagements and things like that, which fulfills me a lot and brings me joy. And I think I provide the most value in that role too, but learning how to kind of let go of something that was all mine for almost 8 years and my staff and everything is my biggest challenge right now. And then I'm kind of managing that with the kids and the home life too, of like, how much time am I actually spending on it? Because right now, well, we also just finished a huge spring clean, but I think I've put a lot of percent into my home and kids as I'm still kind of figuring out my new daily kind of career professional routine as we're in the transition phase.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point for mothers out there to remember. Your career, air quotes, can be your passion. It doesn't have to be one or the other, and it doesn't always have to lead the money trail. So I think that's important for young mothers, entrepreneurs to hear that kind of thing. Moving on, along that lines, you guys talked about, your work-life balance. What advice would you give to young mothers out there who want to, get into the entrepreneurial field? Kyley, let's start with you.
Well, advice for anyone that wants to get into the entrepreneurial field is kind of, I'll do that first and then a little bit time management tips. But first is you have to have a solid support network who is on board with what you're trying to do and being very transparent with them, because that's something that I didn't have in the beginning and like caused major stress and anxiety and overwhelm for me because I was used to being the primary caregiver and doing all the things for everyone and then burning myself out eventually. So having someone that's or a group of people in your support network that even if it's just people that you can talk to and just have that outlet to explain how you're feeling and have that emotional release person and emotional support person. I'm very grateful now that I have my mom on my team to help with actual tasks and duties with the kids in the house and different things to support me in that side of my life as well. But that's the biggest thing, and being very transparent with them, because you can tell someone that you want to start a business and they can be supportive, but if you don't really explain like this is now what that means for you, especially if it's your spouse or if you have kids and you have to navigate this new routine. So I'm going to be working more hours, so this means that you need to step up for me here, here, and here, so that they understand what that now means for them. And then on the kind of time management and life work balance side, Tonya will probably agree, like it's super tough at the beginning and you have to you have all the balls in the air in the first year or so, and you're doing everything at once and figuring it out. So it is long hours. It is working before the kids wake up and after they go to bed and things like that to get it moving and off the ground. And then once it's you can scale and you have some staff and support and things like that, then you can set your time boundaries and figure out what your strengths are and delegate the rest of the activities. That's kind of the biggest thing, and being consistent with those boundaries is the most important thing that I always say.
Yeah, Tonya, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I guess in regards to, I look at a few different things. Kyley, when you were just talking there in the time management, strategy comes to mind, being strategic, right? our kids, the three older ones, obviously they're older now, so they don't require as much from us. But when it comes to like us being right there in every moment, right? But like if waking up early, staying up late at night, but like, why not take the kids to the park? They can burn off some energy. And if you have work to do, get the work done, right? If you want, take them to like an indoor play place and bring your laptop, do what you need to do. So then like everybody's getting a chance to do what they need to do and continuing on with life. Like multitasking is, like that fine trait that, I don't know if we ever master, but just trying to fit in where you can. Also for me, I guess it's looking at the passion, right? A lot of people think when it comes to their career and maybe wanting to switch or start a business, like, I got to give up my career. I got to give up my job and like go full steam ahead. But we have to be strategic again. We can't just, in some situations, people can't just give up that steady income, right? So you have to look at it that way. Are you keeping the job that you have, or maybe leaving that job that does take up a lot of time and picking up something else? Maybe it's not going to pay as much, but it frees up way more time. So at least you have some income coming in while you're getting your business off the ground and being able to work towards creating your passion, right? So I would say those. And also, like, if you are doing a job right now and you're not feeling as fulfilled or passionate, I get it. Sometimes looking back, we do have to be there for a reason, right? But then it's adding in like, what else can you do? Right. So I have my daycare, and before the pandemic, because I'm the extrovert, I would go out with the kids to play groups, to like libraries and stuff like that. And it was great for the kids. It was also great for me because there's daycare providers there that I could interact with. And then when the pandemic came and I was like stuck here, that when I was open, I'm like, oh, this is a big change, right? Because I'm not getting that adult interaction. I'm with the kids all the time. And I did feel myself questioning, like, okay, is this still what I should be doing? And then that's sort of how we came up with the podcast. And I realized as we started into it, I'm like, I would leave the conversations fulfilled. I'm like, oh, this is what I was missing, right? I was getting that interaction. I was getting a chance to use my brain the way I would like to use it more. And so then I was feeling way more fulfilled.
That's great. And, I love that you touched on that, because professional mothers are looking to be able to manage their time. Everybody's looking for those helpful hints and tips. And you talked about some strategies and, definitely being a multitasker. Tonya, are you like a checklist person? You talked about calendars. Are you that type? Are you a list person? Or how do you manage those strategies effectively to be able to manage your time?
Yeah, so I was a list person, and then I realized, okay, well, I wrote that list on my kitchen fridge, and now I'm out and somebody's asking me if I'm available or what I need to do. And then I realized I would like overbook, and it was turning into a disaster. So it really only has been recently, but I have like my Apple Watch, and even if my phone isn't on me and I think of something, because I now have like so many more things on the go, I can't double book. I can't have these problems happening. So if I think of it, I'll just be like, hey, Siri, add a reminder, right? And whatever it is, and then it's on my reminder, it's on that list, and it will pop up again. And even because sometimes I'm like, oh, what's this reminder for? I'm like, oh yeah, right? Good thing I put it in there. So I'm finding that works really well. And then for Brian, we have like the calendar where if I'm going out, different things like that, we have that joint calendar that works. Because we were finding there were a lot of times where it's like, oh, I didn't look at the calendar, or I don't remember you telling me that when I was running out the door in the morning. So having that to look at, that's been helpful.
That's great. I love it. You are two busy women. Let me tell you, you have a lot on your plate. Two busy moms. Kyley, I know you're a checklist person, so go for it. Let's hear it.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing for me is planning ahead. And then when those things come up, like I'm a little bit different strategy than Tonya. I'm pen to paper or pen to my hand if I don't have a paper to remind me to do something. But I have to, I don't know, there's something about the physical writing that it creates the memory for me. But I plan out my week, a week like on Sunday night, so I know what I'm doing, and my months at the end of the month for the next month. And I have a list for, like, I have a sticky note for what I need to do on that day. I have a sticky note for what absolutely must be completed during the week. And then I usually have like a family and household one that's separate from my more career or task list that I have to get done during the day.
That's great. I know I can answer this next question. I'm interested to see what you ladies have to say. Do your skills translate? Do you bring those work skills and strategies home? Or do you wear that mom hat / skills and take those to work in the office, wherever that may be? Kyley?
Well, 100% to both, yes. And I like to, like, anything that I'm learning, like we talked a little bit before we started recording about books and how much I read, and I like to see if I can translate that. So my kids are a little bit younger, 5 and 8. If I can translate that so they understand little mindset tips that I learn and see how they absorb it, and if I can give them any tidbits of knowledge that way. And I mean, my kids are also curious about what I do, especially my older one. He asks what we do at the office and asks what work means and all of that. So I try to answer that for him, but I 100% mom my staff and like am able to multitask and do the things, especially when it comes to event organizing or even keeping people on task. Like Tonya, you know, keeping little ones on task is like a monumental skill set. So you're keeping your team focused and on task and aligned in meetings or whatever it is. Absolutely, those skills transfer, and it's super helpful.
Now, Tonya, should we be asking Brian's question? Because I know your work is highly intertwined with your husband. Should we ask him if you use your mom skills on him? What do you have to say?
Well, the interesting thing is I have been learning what my strengths are even more than I thought before, especially working with him, because and to be honest, it actually has been coming naturally. So when it comes to something, it's like, I just automatically start to do it. Oh, we need a plumber, an HVAC person at a property. Okay, like I love researching and like Googling and all that kind of stuff. I got it, it's done there. You know, when it comes time to have to look for product and different things like that, that's his thing. He likes the numbers and budgeting on all that out, right? So it's interesting that we rarely have to say to each other, oh, you know, you should do this or you should do that, because it's usually picked up. Because what do? You naturally go to what you want to do and what you're good at, right? I'm not going to offer to be like, oh yeah, I'll do like the numbers and stuff like that, because I don't like it. So that part works good. But in regards to the kids, it's, I mean, again, because we are here, like everything happens out of this home. So they are very involved with, you know, different things. Like, let's say when we were looking at purchasing a property and stuff like that, like they were involved. We were showing them what we were looking at, what the costs were, this, that, and the next thing. And, you know, it's a lot of conversations that happen, right, at dinner and different things like that. So it's neat to see that they even have like that entrepreneurial bug. I was saying my oldest and my daughter specifically, before the pandemic, they started like a poop and scoop business. And that was their thing. And they're like, it was disgusting, but they made a good chunk of money, right? And what else have they done? They make like personal items at Christmas time, like with my Cricut machine. And I have a cleaning business, so they've helped me go cleaning and stuff. And it teaches them the value of money too, right? And it teaches them that like, you don't always have to spend your money. You can save it and you can work towards goals and things like that. So definitely they see it. And sometimes even without us sharing, right? It's just what they observe.
That's great. I love that. And I love how you both talked about bringing your family into it. And I think, you know, there were those of us that did it pre-pandemic. But I think the pandemic really shone a light on that people were working from home with their kids studying. So there was more, you know, intertwining with the family of work / home life. And it's nice actually that it carried post-pandemic for a lot of us. I think that's great. Tonya, you touched on your strengths that you focus on, which is wonderful. But I want to ask, the weaknesses, and are we still facing mom guilt? Is that still a thing? How do you feel about that?
Oh yeah, mom guilt for sure. I love how, like, let's just say during the pandemic, I was home all the time. And when I would go out, the kids were like, "You're leaving? You're going?" I'm like, "Are you for real right now?" Yeah, I am. And we'll see you later. Everybody will be fine. And, away you go. I think we always deal with mom guilt for sure. When you're like physically not present, obviously that takes a little bit more of a toll too, right? Like when you're out of the office and, if you have to do something else in the evening, but also fulfill your needs, you have that there. But I am a firm believer that you have to fill yourself up too. And I, like, since having kids, I've done that. So it is almost a little bit more natural to them. They know, like, okay, mom and dad's going out tonight, that's fine. Or mommy's going out with her friends, because it's been instilled from the beginning. Now, I think starting even off small for somebody, who hasn't really mastered that, just putting it into the calendar, just like it would be that you take your child to soccer practice or to the dentist, right? Like adding that in to the family calendar, even if it starts off small, going out for coffee with a friend or going to get your nails done, just something to put in, because guess what? When we don't add it to the calendar, it is going to very easily get bypassed.
Yeah. 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 I love that advice. And I think too that, holds true, like with you, when you do it with your spouse or your significant other, date nights or, family game night, it can run the gamut of how you do that to try and alleviate. And again, part of that real mom, real life balance. Kyley, what about you?
Oh yeah, 100%. I still experience mom guilt, even though like I work on that all the time and have worked on it with multiple sessions with my coaches and equivalent of therapists, like mindset coaches and things like that. And I actually found it really difficult during the pandemic. So I was fortunate enough that we basically moved in with my parents, and my mom and my stepdad were teaching the kids, but I was still working upstairs. So I would be upstairs on my computer from whatever 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. or whatever it ended up being, on calls and different things. And they were in the basement. And that was difficult for me, just being that close, but also that far at the same time. Now that they're back at school, I'm finding it easier. And I also like really, the reason I'm so passionate, I think, about time management is because of my commitment to being efficient in my execution for my role in my career. Then I can be present with my boys and really enjoy the time with them and be there. And I'm not worried about my phone. I'll often leave it, like if we go to the park, I leave it at the house, or you know what I mean, whatever it is, so I can enjoy that time with them. And one thing that one of my mentors said to me, which really helped me, was that I'm not saying no to them or to whoever. I'm saying yes to myself. And it's not me first, but it's not me last either. So just having those different perspectives of it is helpful. And I mean, I'm fortunate and unfortunate, I guess, that I have a co-parenting schedule. So I have time when I don't have the boys that I can do my social activities. Not that I'm the most social person, but I will do that kind of stuff, or my work travel schedule more so often, where I travel for work when I don't have the boys on my schedule to do those kind of things that really fill my cup. And then I'm able to be my best self when I do have them.
Yeah, that's great. And, I think along those lines too, I want to hear from you guys a day in the life of, a mom / professional entrepreneur, because I don't think we all need to hear, oh, I get up at, 5:30 and I do my half an hour exercise and I sit down and I work strategically for, 4 hours and I have my mini micro salad for lunch and, I go back to work and I'm so and then I play with my children and read to them, out of the encyclopedia for an hour. I don't think we want to hear that. We want to hear a real day in the life. Are is there breaks? Is there interruptions? What do you do about interruptions? Kyley, what's a day in the life look like for you?
Yeah, well, when I have the boys, like the mornings are dedicated to them. So I get up, I make sure that they're up, getting dressed, making their breakfast and lunches. And then sometimes if I have a sleepy head that's not getting up early enough, then I'm going to do drop off in my PJs or whatever equivalent. So I'm not always showered and dressed and ready. I try to, because I feel better when I do that, but it doesn't happen every day. That's for sure. I'll go in my like slippies and whatever leggings and a hoodie and whatever to get them to school on time. And then when I come home, I usually do some journaling and some mindset stuff for myself so I can mentally prepare myself for my day. And then sometimes I'll do a morning workout before I start my day. Sometimes I'll just get into it and work basically straight until I pick up the kids. Typically, I don't take a lunch break or anything like that unless I'm really hungry, because I know that I want to be present with my kids from 3 p.m. when I pick them up until they go to bed at 8 or 8:30. So that's a large chunk of time. So I want to be as efficient as I can while they're at school. And then, I pick them up from school. We do park and whatever else they want to do. They usually have some screen time right after school to wind down a little bit. We get outside, we do homework after dinner, and then it's like bath and story and bedtime. And then sometimes I'm exhausted and almost fall asleep with them when I'm cuddling with them to bed. Sometimes I have enough energy to read a couple chapters before bed. I pretty much don't turn on the TV at all when I have them. And then the weeks that I don't have the boys, then I'll get a show in here and there. But that's my day in the life, basically, with my world.
Tonya, what about you? You have double the little ones there that Kyley has. I shouldn't say little. Your teenagers probably wouldn't appreciate that. What's a day in the life look like for Tonya Hamilton?
Oh man. Okay. So I do get up and I take time to do get a quick workout in. And usually my oldest is up during that time, but I mean, he's doing his own thing. He's an early bird too. And when I come up, I shower. And then once I'm ready for my day, everybody else, if you're not up, that's when I start to wake you up. So we've transitioned into the big kids, like you make your lunch, you do that kind of stuff, because the reality is when you're home, they start to take advantage of that. So I kibosh that real quick, right? It's like, oh, mom's here. Can you pack lunch? Can you get me breakfast? I'm like, no. So ideally in a perfect world, like make your own lunch and I'll help you with breakfast or what have you, and get them off the door. So we have the blessing of the bus coming right in front of our house. So like usually my middle son is outside playing basketball because he gets ready real quick and then he wants to go outside. And so he'll scream in and be like, the bus is coming down the street. And then whoever is in here, you better get your butt outside. So once they go, I have around 20 to 30 minutes before my first daycare child comes. So it gives me a chance to like get my house back in order, because once they come, there's like none of that's happening, right? So quickly, if beds need to be made, kitchen cleaned up, and then the day starts. So I'm like all hands on deck with the little ones. When they come up for snack mid-morning and I have them settled, that's like my quick break, right? So not necessarily 15 minutes, but like if I need to respond to an email or if I need to whatever, that's when it's getting done there, because I know everybody's around the table safely buckled into their high chairs. So I know I have a chance to do that. And do the daycare life. When I do have my lunch break, when they nap, not all of them do, that's when it's like quick dinner prep. And that's when I go into like work mode with everything else. So I know I have an hour to get that all done. And that's usually focused. That hour is usually focused on the other work stuff. And they leave at 4, all the daycare kids. And then my kids get home at 4:15. So again, another like 15 minutes to transform this place back into like from daycare to like the kitchen table being ready for them to come, you know, and not have high chairs all around it, right? And yeah, once they get home from school, it's like, you know, backpacks thrown everywhere. They want to raid our pantry. So that's why I have to have dinner pretty much ready, because if not, it's like they've raided everything before dinner starts. And then, yeah, it's like all hands on deck with them. Doing what they need to do for the evening and getting them into bed, same thing. And now with the older ones, especially with this time change, like before I could get almost everybody in bed at 7:30, just because they are up extremely early for the bus at 8, right? And now I'm like, oh, you're still awake? Like for our older ones, the little ones sleeping, but it's just like, oh, this is definitely changing the evening, like for us, for Brian and I, right? Because that's usually when we'll schedule podcasts and stuff like that. So yeah, just, you know, some new stuff. But once everybody's quiet, at least, then usually that's when we'll have a podcast interview or do some other stuff. And that's that. Then I pass out hard. I have no problems with sleeping.
Good for you. Good for you, Tonya. It's so interesting too to see like you're both working from home and how different, you know, the aspects of life are. But
Oh,
the similarities too, which is that, you know, that's what real moms, real life people need to see. Entrepreneurs, this is how it goes, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I think that's so important for everybody to, you know, be able to see in others so they don't feel it's a weakness in themselves.
Oh, for sure. And one other thing, so when I started daycare, so I only work 4 days a week. So Friday is like a chance for me to do what I need to do, because I'm like, I don't want to be stressed anymore, like running to the grocery store on a Saturday or, you know, spending the weekend, because again, I gave up something. So to make my life work. So I don't want to have to give up other things. Right. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that's why Friday, here I am.
And, you know, that's so important. Like Kyley said, you know, just because you're saying yes to you doesn't mean you're saying no to anything else in your life. So yeah. I love that.
Ooh, I have a real mom confession.
Okay, go ahead.
Tonya, so pointed out in her little spiel that she does a dinner prep during her day. And you'll notice that I didn't say that because I don't cook. So this is a real mom confession that like, I'm easy with my little ones, and now I'm kind of lucky that I have a partner that cooks and takes care of that. But that's a real mom, real talk right there. Like I do not, nope, it's not happening.
Hey, let me add, the only reason is because trying to pay for 6 people, especially these big eaters, to go out to eat, oh my word, you have to take on a whole other part-time job just to like pay for the takeout. So yeah, that's the only reason. I never said I enjoyed it.
I'm a chicken nuggets in the oven kind of mom.
Good point. Good point, Tonya. I love that. Good point. And I will vouch for Kyley not loving to cook. Okay, ladies, let's end this great talk. I loved it. On a book recommendation. We always end our Let's Talk with a book recommendation. So Kyley, I want to hear from you. Think of a book that can apply to a mother and a professional all at the same time. What would you recommend?
That's a really interesting one. And I'm going to say that I like the Gabby Bernstein series, and I'll write in the comments what the exact book is, but one of her last ones that was only on Audible that she released during COVID talked about and I did a video on this about like forgiveness and how like we're really, really critical of ourselves, and how to flip the perspective of how do we speak to our child if it was the same situation that happened. So from a mindset perspective, I don't think a lot of books touch on that. Like certainly the majority of what's behind me right now, like the business and professional and finance and leadership and all that, there's no mom perspective books really out there, or not a lot that I've read. So anything that talks about kind of mindset around giving yourself some credit and some slack, doing all of the things, was very, very helpful for me. And I've done a bunch of journaling activities with those kind of mindset tools of self-love and self-forgiveness and things like that.
Nice. Tonya, what about you?
Yeah, so I am definitely not a book lover or a reader. Hey,
There's your confession.
yeah, that's my confession. I am not like my husband who like reads all the time. Audible. I've recently, so I have done the 5 love languages. And the interesting thing about that, it's not necessarily like for the whole mindset and stuff with parenting, but when I was reading about it, obviously with Brian and I, you can also implement that with your kids too. And I do think like for relationship and building and stuff like that, we all know all of our kids are different, but to be able to look and be like, okay, so the time that I do have with this one, how am I going to best build that relationship, right? And I'm learning a lot personally that like for my oldest, him and I are he's like an introvert to the bone, right? And me, I'm like, what do you mean you want to go out? What do you mean? You know, and I'm learning to respect that because that's not filling him up. Right. And at first it was like, no, we're going. Now he'll say Friday, like, what do you have planned for the weekend? Because he knows. And so I'll like give him, okay, this, but then you also have some downtime there too. So like just learning. And I keep saying I'm going to start reading, but I can't guarantee that's like a for sure thing. But Audible, I must say, is definitely helpful for people who don't like reading. And I have Michelle Obama is Becoming that I think I'm on like chapter 10, but it's quite a long book.
Very nice. I love it. And Audible does count, honey. We will count.
Yes.
I want to thank you ladies so much. Give yourselves a pat on the back just to be a professional, let alone a mom too. Wonderful accomplishments. Let's not let that slack. If you're even just a mother, that's a profession. So pat yourself on the back, everyone. It's a great accomplishment. Thank you for Let's Talk today. Real life, real mom, to our special guest, Tonya Hamilton. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you could make it, and to Kyley Paul, and to everyone out there. We will put those book recommendations in there and those Audible recommendations. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.